welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. I just woke up and I do not want to be awake right now. So we're going to record with me half asleep and we're going to see what happens. I'm so tired. I'm so freaking tired. You know that tired where you like wake up and you can't make a fist? That's what I feel like. Um, Even Autumn and Boris are still laying in the bed. And why did I still get up? Because I'm gonna make dinner. I'm making a Persian shrimp dish with rice. And Bailey's coming tonight. So I don't know. I feel like I have to get up. So gonna record my message and I'm gonna be super perky by the end of the episode. Promise. So today's episode is about a little bit more about what we've been talking about recently, which is humility, but I'm going to be focusing on step 7. So we just recently talked about step 6. So step 7, this was what my morning meeting was about this morning. And as I was taking notes, I got to the same stopping point that I always get to with step 7. And step 7 is about humbly asking the God of our understanding to remove our character defects. And I've always had an issue with that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and letting go of character defects. And as always, we're just going to see what falls out of my mouth. So, humility is something that for me has evolved over time. And what that looked like for me is in the beginning of my sobriety and for the course of my sobriety, I've always had to look up what humility meant, what the word meant, because I could never really completely grasp it. It's a pretty easy word. I mean, I know what being humble means. I think I just don't know what it feels like, you know? And there's a difference there. Like, what does the word mean, but how does that translate in Rachel's body? So I'm always trying to look up the word and figure out from my experience in my life, what does the word actually look like in action? So this morning, let's see, it's Friday, so I don't remember where this reading came from. But I guess it was the oh my God, I'm still totally asleep. I was like the 20 steps and 20 traditions. No, it's 12. It's 12 steps and 12 traditions. I think it came from that book, Step 7. Anyway, um, in the beginning of my sobriety, as I was introduced to this word, humility, I understood it only by definition. And what I learned, and this is kind of what I wrote down in my notes for my reading this morning, it was talking about our instincts. And I've talked about instincts a lot recently too. So the reason why some of the topics seem to be repeated is that the months go along with the steps. So every year we kind of go through the steps again. And so the middle of the year is where we talk a lot about humility. So these instincts that we have that are they they are meant to serve us for protecting us. Like back in the day when people had to like protect themselves from bears coming at them and getting their food and living out in the wild and stuff like that. These instincts are there initially to protect us and serve us, but over time, they can become a barrier to our growth. And what they've done for me is they've become a barrier to humility. And um, humility requires me to look at myself honestly. Um, I can't look at myself honestly if my instincts are protecting me from myself, you know? Um, so humility, and we talked a little bit about humility versus humiliation. And I can't help but talk about the two of them together because they're not related words. I think they have partially a root word, which is like self. Um, I can't help but talk about them together because humiliation is uh let's see. I had a really good definition that I wrote down this morning. Um, that somebody else shared with me. Humiliation is loss of pride and self-respect, while humility is loss of pride only. Um, then when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's a good way to look at it. But then when I heard that, I'm like, well, that gets me into the play on words with loss of pride versus not being proud of me. I mean, it is just a play on words, but it does wonders to my brain when I start mixing some of these words up. So when it comes to ego, it's like humiliation is like ego's crash landing, while humility is your spiritual rise up, when you let go of your ego. When you gently place your ego down, humility is your spirit's quiet rise, while humiliation is your ego's crash landing. I think that that is a really cool way of looking at it. So practicing humility did not feel good for me in the beginning. Um, in the beginning, and there's a reason why I hold on to my character defects because they feel good in a way. I depend on them. They are reliable, what I feel like are assets for protection in the beginning. But as I start really looking at the impact of my character defects and what they do to me internally and what they do to my relationships, and I just open myself up to humility and replacing those character defects with humility. It takes practice, but humility does actually start feeling good. And it starts feeling better than my character defects ever felt. Um, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of living without alcohol because I kept reaching for the bottle because it felt good. And it didn't feel good to not be able to reach for the bottle. But eventually, my life started to feel better than it ever felt when I was reaching for the bottle. That's the same as humility. So it's probably like humility rises in tandem with my sobriety. So choosing humility is really preventing self-inflicted suffering because I'm no longer clinging to my ego. Just like my alcoholism, sobriety prevents self-inflicted suffering caused by clinging to the drink. So isn't that interesting? Um, Humility is rising again in tandem with my sobriety. I feel like I need to write that down. We're going to do live notes. I'm going to write it down. That's what I do. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Okay. Humility is rising in tandem with my sobriety. You know that I do this every once in a while. I've got to take live notes. Okay, back to the topic. So, what we're really losing, true humility, is losing my pride, but not my self-worth, my self-respect, like I heard this morning. So I confuse that idea of letting go of pride with not being proud of who I am, pride and proud. I can be proud of me while still having a modest opinion about me. And I don't have to go. It's like when I'm trying to let go of my pride, I don't have to go from not not thinking about me. And first of all, I don't have to let go of not thinking good about me. I just have to let go of not thinking I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm better than you, you know? Um, when I think about my growth and sobriety, I can't help but think about my brother and my sister because I never thought that I was capable of being like them. My my self-image was that if I were comparing to them, I felt like I was not capable of being a hard worker like them. I didn't think that I was capable of being, I don't know what the word is. It's like, I guess it's being grown up like them. I always felt like their little sister. And I always felt like I am always going to be a little sister. I felt like I was always going to need to be carried. I was always going to need to be supported. And humility and sobriety, as they rise in tandem, is allowing me to live my own life and not measure myself against anyone. Like healing internally for me is independent of anyone else. It's it's a it's a job that is internal to me while I observe and I'm open to and willing to listen to other people. So it's like an inside job, but I get to take the resources that I'm getting from my program, my support groups, my higher power, all of this stuff that I'm learning. I get to take that and build myself within. I don't feel so insignificant anymore in in my family. It that sounds terrible to say. So family, if you're listening, hi, I love you. But I just have always felt like I remember going on this family vacation and I was drinking. I was still really heavily drinking. This was years ago. I don't even know where we went, but I remember being, my husband, my current husband was there. We were dating, of course, with the kids. And I have a picture of us standing in the foyer of the house. But I remember my family sitting in like this sitting room and they were all talking with each other. And I went outside and sat on the back porch and smoked a cigarette because I felt like I had nothing to offer, number one. And honestly, I felt like they didn't really want to hear what I had to say. And it's not because of anything they did. It was my own like low self-worth that was fueled by my defects and it was fueled by my alcoholism. So those character defects were alive and well back then as I was sitting on the back porch smoking my cigarette. I was really putting on my character defects as armor so that I could control my own life. You know, I could be defensive in my own quiet space. You know, I could isolate. That's really what I was doing. And so the painful part of healing is laying down that armor, not knowing what is going to protect me, you know? I had to ask myself, like, when I'm on a family vacation and I lay down that armor and I don't leave and I sit with them and I talk, what's going to protect me if I say something that nobody thinks is valuable? So I did it. The only way to figure that out is to do it. And you know what? I sat there and I talked. I was sober. This was fast forward many years, and I was on another vacation, and I was able to sit there and I was able to talk. And when I looked at my family, I saw 100% true love and respect. And they wanted to hear what I had to say because I was sober and I had valuable insights. When I was not sober and I just wanted to go out and smoke a cigarette, I honestly didn't care what they were talking about because I was so self-centered. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to feel good, and I didn't really want to nurture, per se, any relationships back then. I saw nothing beyond what was on the surface. So today, this step 7, when I'm asking God to remove my defects, the fact that I even have the word God in my mind every day is just a total different world that I never lived in the first half of my life. So when I was introduced to this idea, um, asking God to remove my character defects, I was I felt blocked by this obstacle to finally be inviting this thing, God, into my life and asking some sort of active participation in my life just seemed strange. If I'm being honest, it didn't make sense to me that when if I was sitting out on that back porch smoking a cigarette and I were to ask God, please remove these character defects and allow me to sit with my family and have something interesting to say, how would he do that? How would God make some kind of active participation in my life? And why would he do that? But and I felt that way for years since I've been sober. I haven't really been completely sold on the idea that this loving God that I have, if I ask for my character defects to be removed, that they're just going to poof, be removed. So this morning I was sharing about that, and what I thought was one way that I can think about it it's all about willingness and openness. And I know that now, that in order to get to some sort of understanding, I have to open my heart, open my mind, and be willing to get an understanding of it. So this morning, and that's the work. That's the work to show up and consider, how am I going to do this? It's like having this obstacle course in front of you and sitting down before you start and thinking, all right, how am I going to do this? I'm thinking of those, it's not Iron Man, it's the course that they have where people it's the obstacle course, and then at the end people can win $1 million or something. Whoever, Emily, you know what I'm talking about. um they a lot of times will sit at the beginning of the obstacle course and just envision how they're going to go through it. What are the steps I'm going to take? And um that's what that's what I think working the program and showing up is staring at the beginning of this step and being like, how am I going to do it? And so this morning I was thinking I could do this as a partnership. Instead of looking at it like I'm just gonna roll over and be submissive and God is going to lift the defects out of me. Instead, I would like to think of it as a partnership, that he will guide me to doing the next right thing so that I will begin to replace my defects of character. I can say it passively or actively. I can either say my character defects will be lifted, um, or I can say it more like I did for step 6, which is my character defects I will release them. So either they will be released or I will release them. And it's like letting go. That's what it feels like for me. So I'm a work in progress. I've always claimed to be a work in progress. And I love being able to come and share how I think these things through, because I know that I'm not unique. I'm not the only one who probably is challenged with some of these ideas. Especially, I know there's lots and lots and lots of people that are in my sobriety program that were raised Catholic. I am not one of those. I was barely raised putting a foot in a church. But I am willing to try to figure this out. So if I can look at step 7, like step 6 is I'm willing to let go of the character defects. Step 7 for me is the action, is the work, is my work, is I have to see, oh, there's one of those darn defects, and pausing. And that pause could be looked at as a moment of prayer, even, or a moment of meditation, really, a moment of meditation where I'm listening, I'm internally listening to what's the next right thing for me to do here. Because what I know, what I've been introduced to in the program is that what I'm about to do is one of my character defects. And that's not going to get me where I'm trying to go. So that listening part before that pause and listen before I actually carry out one of my character defects, that's the partnership for me. That's the listening. That's what I'm just ever so slightly beginning to build my understanding of how I'm asking God to remove my defects. It's not a one-time thing. It's not like and that's what I thought it was when I was first introduced to the step. I thought it was like, okay, let's do this thing. Remove them, like Bewitched, wiggle my nose and the character defects will be removed. And that's why I just couldn't. I'm like, that's never going to happen. That's not how life works. But I can see that the action is just like many of the other steps. I don't just do it one time. I learn how to do it once. And then I repeat that behavior in my life. And so the behavior for step 7 is pause and listen to what the next right thing is instead of carrying out my character defects. So that is humility in action. That is my sobriety. That's the principles, practicing the principles in all of my affairs. And I can have this humble approach to my relationships. My relationships improve when I'm not trying to impress other people, control other people, or defend myself against other people. My side of the street stays clean when I live in my truth, not in my ego. I heard this morning somebody said, pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. And that really hit me. I've heard that saying a million times, but for some reason it just really hit me this morning. This program introducing me to humility. Humility has been an amazing tool that feels like I'm indirectly processing pain that I've had throughout my life, pain that was ignored and protected by my ego and my character defects. So when I rip that armor off and I expose that pain and trust, like, I don't know what's going to protect me right now, but I'm starting to strengthen that humility muscle instead. And I realize that I don't need that armor anymore. Um, so I think I'm going to stop there. I was going to keep going, but I think I'm just going to stop there because I think that is enough of a message. It really puts me in a good place And I don't want to forget what I said about what the action is in step 7, that the action is the pause and the listening. And right before I'm getting ready to implement a character defect. So I know that my spirituality, my survival, my mental health depends on my willingness to surrender and to figure it out, to stand in front of this obstacle course of life and be willing to look at how am I going to do this? And I don't need to be perfect at it. It's okay. Unlike the race that I can't think of the name of, where they fall in the water and then the race, they can't even, they're not allowed to finish the race. That's not the case here. I can misstep. I can make errors. That doesn't matter. I get to keep going. I get to step further. All I need to do is be willing to stand back up again. Um, every time that I practice humility instead of my character defects, I step further into the person that I am becoming. And that was an idea I answered. I'm a part of a stroke forum, like online forum platform through Stroke Onward. And every week there's like a question that is posed. And so I always try to answer them. And today, was it today? I think it was today. I put an answer and it ended with that person that I'm becoming. And that's exciting to know that I don't always have to be exactly who I am forever. I'm actually becoming a better version of me every day and practicing humility and willingness and openness and these all of these like keys that I have on my keychain that open the door to a better life for me are I'm trying to remember that I'm trying to implement them throughout my day instead of my character defects. So thank you for listening. I am awake now, thankfully, so I'm gonna go make some Persian shrimp with tamarind, shrimp with tamarind. I don't know, something like that. It's gonna be delicious. And Bailey will be here in only 5 hours. Of course, she's gonna get here late, so. We have tomorrow. We're gonna enjoy. Tomorrow's my birthday. Happy birthday. And we're gonna go to the pool and stuff like that. Hopefully the weather will be good. Okay, I'm gonna stop running my mouth and I will talk to you tomorrow.